Pattern interrupts can be very intriguing and inviting, but I don't think we realize that there's a few caveats to the pattern interrupt in a sales conversation. The one positive thing about the pattern interrupt is that they can actually be very helpful to break a habit or state of understanding of how a certain process goes, right? If we're on the phone with a prospect and we think of a joke real quick and are able to deliver that on time in an authentic way, that can actually surprise the prospect and actually create more humor and trust and rapport with that prospect and actually move them along the sales pipeline more quickly. However, I think one of the things that we get confused is that repeating that joke every time to every prospect no longer becomes a genuine, authentic conversation, but now becomes, and I don't want to say it, a gimmick or a fad. And that's dangerous because now the conversation is no longer about the prospect and what they need to hear. It's now about your joke and if you're able to execute it appropriately. Okay? Can you think about that? It's now about us and what we want to say and no longer about what the prospect needs and the solution that can help them. So, the one thing to remember then, there's actually two caveats, but the first thing to remember is that a pattern interrupt has to pass the test of, is it repeatable? So the first thing is, if it's repeatable to the masses, then yes, let's use something like that can help break up the conversation and help move it in a good direction. But if it really just has to do with your own personality, your own way of saying things, and it has nothing to do with actually what the prospect needs to hear, well, then that's where the issue comes in. So if you're telling a joke in the first 10 seconds, will the other 20 reps that are going to be doing this be able to repeat that? If the answer is no, then we need to watch how many times we're actually trying to deliver that joke. Second, if we try to replicate, these interrupts can become these gimmicks and fads. Okay? So, do you know what the definition of a gimmick is? It's a trick or device used to attract business or attention. A fad is very similar to practice or interest followed for a time with exaggerated zeal. So, the gimmick is something exaggerated that's supposed to be fabricating some type of authentic situation. And it can become a fad because one person is using it and has some success stories and everyone else tries. But what ends up happening is we're losing touch with what the prospect needs to hear. So how do we solve this? How do we make sure that we're not moving into the territory of gimmicks and fads when it comes to pattern interrupts? Well, we have to be careful about our script language. We have to be careful about our methodology and the way that we speak with people. The process that we want to write down and repeat has to have strong bones. It has to have function over fashion. All right? We can dress up the bones, right? We can dress up the function with our own personality, with our own authenticity, but if underneath the layers of the conversation structure or the methodology structure don't have those bones, then the worst possible thing can happen, which is what we've been trying to fight for ages. Okay? Which is this. I never mind if the sales call is transparent and the prospect knows that I am trying to sell them, but I never want them to feel like it. That's the biggest difference. The moment that they start to feel the gimmick, the cheesiness, the fabrication, and the inauthenticity, that's the moment that we can start to lose interest and trust because it's no longer about them, it's about you, and that's the danger.